Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Good morning,
sir.
sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
So today we are going to start the unit 2. You see
Good morning, sir.
the course of unit 2 is salient features of Indian agriculture. Number 1, changing agrarian structure. The second topic. Then mechanization of agriculture. It has been deleted from your course. Then rural credit structure in India. What is its role? Rural credit structure in India, role of commercial banks, regional rural banks and cooperative banks. Then land development banks have been
Your
deleted from
voice
your
is
course.
not clear.
My voice is not clear. Why it is not clear?
सर क्लियर है, सर क्लियर है
सर
Then primary agricultural credit societies, NABARD in rural credit and rural unemployment in India. This is the whole course. In the beginning, in my first 2-3 lectures, I have covered agriculture, almost everything which I have read just now. So, we can again go back and revise certain things. The first topic, that is salient features of Indian agriculture. It is a very general and subjective thing. You can be asked 2 questions out of this. One is, what is the role of agriculture in Indian economy, and the second is, what are the features of Indian agriculture. Or you may not be asked any question from this. You may get a question on rural credit, or a question which is generally asked is, what are the problems of rural unemployment in India? So there are 3 things which we are going to study. So let us begin by what is the role of agriculture in Indian economy.
Sir, your voice
No.
is not clear.
I think your instrument is not functioning properly.
Yes, sir. Voice clear.
yes, sir.
Voice is clear.
If it is clear for others, it should be clear for you also. So try to check your instrument. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Don't get panicky. Try to improvise or try to improve, or go in the setting and do things on your instrument. This is a digital platform, and digital platform in India's performance is not up to mark. Everybody is facing that problem everywhere. So what is the role of agriculture in Indian economy? Let us go into the background for a few minutes. If you go back in time, say during the medieval time or before the coming of the Britishers in India, Indian agriculture was highly developed. If you compare Indian agriculture of that time with rest of the world, our agriculture was the most advanced and productive in all over the globe. Not only agriculture was prevalent in the rural areas, but there was rural employment also flourishing in rural India. There were artisans of various kinds. There was people who were engaged in non-agricultural activities in the villages. You see, the weaver class was very prominent, and other artisans of various design was there. So there was not much problem of unemployment in India before the coming of the British period. Britishers in India. That was one of the reasons why India was the richest in the world. It is said, data has been released recently, that around 23% of the GDP of the world, India's share was 23% in the GDP of the world. It is too much. Now, currently India's GDP is very low in the world. It is around 1%, 2%. But at that time, its GDP was very high. But unfortunately, what happened in India, that with the coming of the Britishers, when they seized India, they changed the agriculture system drastically for certain reasons. One of the reasons, try to understand, I'm speaking very slowly, why the Britishers came to India. That is the basic problem, the basic issue which you have to understand. You see, industrial revolution has taken place in Europe. Industries were set up. They were producing manufactured goods, for example, clothes, on a massive scale. So they were looking for new markets. The consumption of agriculture manufacturing in their own country, of industrial manufacturing in their own country, was very low. After selling their products in the local markets, in their own market, in the domestic market, there were huge amount of manufactured products which was left. So they wanted to sell it to foreign country. In this endeavor, in this their pursuit, they started trading with different countries in different continents, with Asia, with Africa, with other countries. And the Britishers came to India basically as trader, and a company, the first multinational company of the world, that is East India Company, they came to India for trading. But gradually, the Britishers conquered India. They occupied India, they seized the power in their own hand. And once they seized the power, their aim and objective was to sell their products in India. Now I am taking one example. India was producing clothes for its own population. The weavers all over the country, basically India, 90% of India was 90, or you can say 95%, 98% of India was rural India. So the weavers were producing clothes. There were other products also which the artisans were manufacturing in the small unit, or in the house. It was a household business. It was a cottage industry which was very flourishing in India. Now the Britishers' aim was to sell the manufacturing products in India. For example, there were thousands of textile mills in England. They were looking for market to sell their clothes in India. How could you sell a product which is already there in the market of a country? So the first thing which the Britishers did, that they adopted policies where weaving was banned in India. One could not weave. Artisans were made unemployed. policies were formulated. In this way, there were a huge army of people who were unemployed, who became unemployed. Now, if somebody became unemployment for the livelihood, they had to fall back on agriculture. The pressure of the population on land increases with this huge amount of unemployed people who were rendered unemployed because of the British policy. Number one. So you can find that is unemployment was very much in force. It was prevalent during the British period. Number two, when the Britishers came to India and they were governing or ruling a huge country like India, of course, India was not a one country at that time. There were several kingdoms, thousands of kingdoms in India. There was not a very strong central power, except for the period of the Mughals. After the disintegration of the Mughal Empire, or with the Mughal emperors after Aurangzeb, their influence in distant lands dwindled or declined. So the second thing with the Britishers, when they seized the power, it was how to rule and govern India. The number of Britishers, the white-skinned people who came to India was not very huge or large. They needed support of the local population to govern India. So they came upon a brilliant idea. You can call it brilliant from the point of view of the Britishers, not from our point of view. They created an institution of intermediaries. A person, intermediary is a person who comes in between the state and the people. This intermediaries in agriculture was a middleman known as the zamindar. So the zamindari system was introduced in India, and the lands were given to the zamindars, and they became the owner of the lands, and the cultivators who were actually tilling the land and who used to own land, now they simply became cultivators. The agreement or understanding of the Britishers with the zamindars or the landlords or feudal lord was that they will support the British by providing them soldiers when it is needed or army when it is needed, and they will pay rent to the government in order to run the country, and the rent which they will pay will be collected from the cultivators and or the actual tillers of the land. Now, the process of exploitation started in India. When the cultivators, when they used to produce certain agriculture product, a huge amount, say 75 or 80% was taken away by the landlord, and some portion of that was deposited to the government in the treasury of the government as the rent, and the landlord, they started having a very luxurious life. They were not interested in increasing the agricultural land to increase the productivity. The cultivators, the actual farmers, the tillers, they did not have enough saving because whatever they produced was not sufficient for their consumption, as the landlord used to take a major portion of their produce. So, investment in increasing the productivity of the agricultural land was not there. There was no fund, no investment to increase the agricultural productivity. Because the feudal lord or the zamindar, he was not interested in that. His sole objective was exploitation of the population or the cultivators. This went on till pre-independence India, and in that process, agriculture in India lagged far behind, the productivity declined, and people interest in agriculture got reduced because they were not the owner of the land. Then came independence. And after independence in the decade of 1950s, this intermediaries, that is the zamindar, this system, this institution was abolished by the Indian government after independence. So, certain percentage of the people, the cultivators, the farmers, they became the owner of the land. But any law which is passed in the India and is implemented by the administrative officers of the government. Now here the vested interest of the administrative officers and the politician, that is the government, was common. Both this class, the administrative officers who were educated people who were employed in the government sector and the politicians, they all came from the landlord family or background of zamindari system. So they left certain loopholes in the Zamindari Abolition Acts so they can retain their own land, and the actual farmers or tillers or cultivators did not get their due on a large scale. There was certain impact, there was certain effect, land was given to the owners, but not on a very massive scale. So the agriculture productivity in the early decades of 50 did not increase. And after the second 5-year plan, that is the Nehru-Mahalanobis model, focus shifted to industrialization. Agriculture was neglected. That there was no reform in the agriculture sector as such. But credit was, to a small amount of credit was provided to the agriculture sector, and the end result was that by the late 50s, around 58, 59, there was shortage of food grains in India. The population was increasing, agriculture productivity was very low, and agriculture depend on the fury of nature. So there was shortage of food grain. Then what India did was that they started importing food grains in bulk from foreign countries, mostly from United States of America. Then the decade of 60s came and agriculture was still in distress. Poverty and unemployment has increased in the decade of 60s. There was war with China and Pakistan, and then there was 2 or 3 years, there was famine in all over India. Agriculture was in deep crisis. In this crisis period, during 1964-65, a new variety of seed, a new way of cultivation was adopted in India, first on a small scale, then it was expanded gradually, which we know as Green Revolution. And agriculture productivity picked up, food grain production started growing, and our dependency on foreign countries for our food grains almost declined to zero by 1970s, 1972-73. And agriculture started moving forward. But there were still problems because reforms have not been adopted in agriculture so far. So this is the background on which we will study the role of agriculture in the Indian economy. The first point you can say what is the importance of agriculture in Indian economy is we can understand it by seeing the share of agriculture in the national income. I think we have studied this somewhere in the past, or I have told you in my initial lectures as far as I remember, But share of agriculture in national income, if you go see the data, in 1950-51, the share of agriculture in national income was around 54%. As we started developing, the share of agriculture in national income started declining. It was around 64. It was in 2014-15, it was around 15.4%. The share of income of agriculture in national income declined from 54% to 55%, gradually declined, and currently it is around 16% according to the new method which we call as the GVA, gross value added in agriculture. As I told you that the procedure of calculating so many things in the Indian economy was changed by the current government after 2014 for certain reasons which we need not go into here. But currently the share of agriculture in national income is around 16%. This is one aspect of role of agriculture in Indian economy when we see in the context of national income. Now, the share of agriculture in national income of any country shows the status of development of that country. Developed countries, their share of agriculture in their national income is low. For example, if you take the case of United States of America, USA share of agriculture in national income is around 2%. If you take the case of France, which is more agriculture than other European countries, it is around 7-8%. So India's share is 16%. If you see it from the theoretical point of view, then India is developing. But there is another problem. The other problem is what is the employment in agriculture? What portion of the population is employed in agriculture sector? So agriculture even today is the largest employment provider sector in India. In 1972-73, 73.9% of the working population was engaged in agriculture and allied activities for their livelihood. In 1993-94, this percentage declined to 64.8%. And in 2011-12, it was around 48.9%. And if you take the case of 2019-20, then it is around 42%. So even today, around 42% of the Indian population is engaged in agriculture for their livelihood, directly or indirectly. Now, if you see the case, that let us take 42%, current 42% people are employed in agriculture sector. When 42% of the population is engaged in agriculture, but they are providing around 16% of the national income, that means that the productivity in agriculture is still very low in India. If the person who is dependent for the livelihood on agriculture, if it had declined to around say 20% to 16% to 15% or even less than that, then the productivity of the Indian agriculture would have been much higher, and India would have certainly become a developed country. So the road to become of India becoming a developed country passes through agriculture. Unless and until agriculture sector is developed, India cannot become a developed country. India cannot solve its problem of unemployment. It cannot solve its problem of poverty, malnutrition, and several other problems. Inequality, so many problems. It is because of the agriculture sector. And agriculture sector is currently again in crisis. Agriculture sector is in the news these days for the last 4 or 5 months. If you go through any decent newspaper, any decent magazine, any unbiased TV media, wherever you will find news discussions going on the farmers, because the farmers are on the roads, they are agitating for a long time, and they are just agitating in order to increase their income and nothing else. Their basic demand is that whatever they produce, they should get a price which covers the cost of production. The farmers allege that the input cost of agriculture, that is the fertilizer, the pesticides, the seeds, the irrigation, the mechanical equipment which they are utilizing, the credit which they are taking, that is the loan which they are taking, all have increased, their prices have increased. But the prices of their produce, that is their crop, has not increased in that proportion. So the cost of production is higher than the market price which they get. And one of the basic principles of market economy is that the prices are determined at the point where supply and demand are equal. Now, you can see supply of food grains has increased in India. Supply of agricultural products has increased. The food grain production in India has increased 5 times from 1950-51 to 2019-20. So, when the supply is more, the demand, the population of India is huge. So one can come to the conclusion, one can have an understanding that the demand is also there. So the prices should be a profitable price, but it is not so. Because around 30 to 40% of India's purchasing power is very low. They cannot buy food grains at the prevailing prices from the market. So the government has come to the aid in various forms by running various schemes. One of the schemes is public distribution system. So we are not going to go there. What we are trying to say that agriculture is important for India, not only because its share in the national income is high, also because it is the highest provider of employment in the country. Now, whenever we look for a solution of problem of India, everything else can wait, but agriculture cannot. Some measures should be undertaken urgently in order to increase the productivity, increase the remunerative prices of agriculture produce, then only we can solve a problem. Now, if you review, the government has undertaken certain measures. The government call it they are resorting to reform in Indian agriculture or agriculture sector for the first time in independent India. The government came up with 3 new laws passed by the first ordinance, then passed by the Parliament of India. And the farmers are saying that these laws are not beneficial to them. they will harm them. These laws will, what the farmers say, that they will render them from a cultivator to a laborer. The lands will be acquired by the corporate houses. The allegation of farmers are that these three laws which the government has passed is in the favor of the corporate houses. Whereas the government says that if these laws are implemented in a very short period of time, say 5 to 10 years, the nature of Indian agriculture will change and it will be totally commercialized and India will become a developed country. This is the bone of contention between the farmers and the agriculture. Till this point of time, no solution has been evolved. Let's wait and watch patiently what direction it took, what solution it comes to. But all said and done, agriculture needs attention of the government on a large scale. Agriculture can no longer be neglected. So any law, according to us, any law which is to be passed should be passed in consultation with the farmers, the agriculture people. Then only it will be acceptable to all and it can be implemented. So this is the second point, that is agriculture is the highest employment provider in the country. Then agriculture plays a role in capital formation. Capital formation means for development we need investment. Unless and until we invest, unless and until new investment is made, new employment cannot be generated, new products cannot come into the market, the national income will not increase. Now, how agriculture provides capital formation, how it helps in capital formation? You see, all the agricultural surplus deposited in financial institutions, that is banks and other non-financial institutions, it could take the shape of capital formation and it can be invested and development can take place. It is not necessary that capital formation or saving in agriculture is invested only in agriculture sector. But it can be invested in services sector, it can be invested in industrial sector. It can be invested in infrastructure development. But what has been done, that the savings of agricultural sector has been siphoned off and it is being invested since long in non-agricultural sector, basically in the urban area. The big farmers who are around 3 or 2% of the population of the farmers, they invest their money in big cities, metropolitan cities, in urban areas, in real estate, in other unproductive sectors. So, agriculture plays a very important role in capital formation, and more financial institutions should be opened in rural areas in order to tap the savings of the farmers for the purpose of development. So this is also an important role of agriculture, that it provides help in capital formation. Then we can move to other points. You see, there are two other factors. Agriculture provides raw materials for industries. For example, at the time of independence, India has a very developed jute industries. Now, jute raw material is produced in the agriculture sector. It is an agricultural product. If you explore, you will not find a big jute industry in India. there must be one or two small units. Now jute industry is basically found in Bangladesh. There are several reasons why jute industries has vanished from the scenario. One of the things that now chemicals are being used to produce the material. For example, sack, plastic has come into fashion. So jute has taken a back stage. Agriculture, sugar industry. Sugar cane are a product of the agriculture sector. Sugar industry or production of sugar is a big business. So there are problems in the sugar industry also in India. And farmers who are agitating, they are saying that they are not being paid their dues when they sell their sugar cane to the mill owners. That problem is not a big problem. It could be sorted out. But sugar industry is dependent on agriculture sector. So jute industry, sugar industry, cotton and textile industry. The basic raw material of cotton and textile industry, we all know, is cotton. So cotton and textile industry is a very important industry because so far, most of the people on the globe, on the earth, they wear clothes. That day has not yet come when people will stop wearing clothes. So, till people need clothes, cotton and textile industry is very important. So, cotton production in India is very important. There are other industries also, for example, edible oils industries, palm oil industries, agro processing industries, which can provide huge employment. We still lag far behind in agro processing industries in the country, though we are primarily an agricultural country. These are the sectors which have to be developed in order to provide employment and to increase our national income and to increase the income of the people. The second aspect of interlinking or relationship between agriculture and industry is agriculture is a very huge market for industrial products. Whatever is produced in whatever is manufactured in industrial sector, it is consumed by the population of the country. When around 42% of the population of the country depends on for the income on agriculture sector, directly or indirectly. So, if the income of the agriculture sector, of the people who are dependent on agriculture increases, their buying capacity will increase and the demand for industrial products will increase. So, more and more investment will come into the industrial sector and more employment will be generated. It is said that the year when there is a good crop, when the growth of agriculture sector is around 4 or 5%, then the production in the performance of the India's industrial sector increases. During the current time, there are certain problems because of lockdown, because of corona, and in the last 3-4 years, till from that date, November 8, 2016, when the Prime Minister of India declared demonetization, that 500 notes and 1000 notes will no longer be in circulation in the country. Many industries, that is small scale industries, big industries, they faced problem because cash is required for small industries and unemployment became very huge. If it was not the agriculture sector, then Indian economy would have been in ruins. The sustenance of the economy was because of agriculture sector, because its impact was there of demonetization on agriculture, but it was very minimal, very low. So, if the income of the agriculture sector increases, then the sale of industrial products will increase and industrialization will gather pace. Now you see the people who are working in the agriculture sector, the workers, the laborers. Because productivity in agriculture is low, the pressure of population or dependency of people on agriculture is very high. So there is too much supply of labor in the agriculture sector than the demand. Demand of labor in agriculture has also declined because of increasing mechanization of agriculture. So the wages are low. And if the wages are low, barely meet the requirements of food grains from the wages. So they do not have extra money for demand of industrial product. That is also one of the reasons why the growth of industrial or performance of India's industrial sector has not picked up in the last several years. These are the reasons why our gross domestic product or GDP or national income has been continuously declining since the last 4 years. The nadir, that is the lowest point of minus 23 or 24%. Then in the last quarter, current quarter, we had a growth rate of around minus 7%. Now it will pick up. We are hoping that by 2022-23, our GDP will be back to where it was in 2018. So these are the few points. There can be some other points if you want. Agriculture is also important for international trade. Recently, we saw the data on export and import of agriculture trade. So, there are many products from India which can be exported or sold to the world and we can get a better price. I was talking about agro-processing industries. In India, there is abundance of products which can be processed in industries and sold in the international market. For example, India grows lots of vegetables. India has a variety of fruits. India can make all sorts of things. For example, sausages, chutneys, achars, pickles, all these can be manufactured and sold all over the world. Various kinds of natural drinks India can make. There is a great demand of a drink of Lauki. It is very beneficial for a patient of diabetic, and the diabetic population is increasing in the world. So India can increase its agriculture share in the international trade. Then India has a huge coastline seas where we can increase our hauling of fishes and we can export it. Then most of the part of the world are non-vegetarian. In India has a large population of bovine and animals which we can sell. We are doing all those things, but we can increase it. Then the production of milk. India is one of the largest production of milk. We can make different products of milk, and with advancement, with modern technology, we can sell it into the world. For that, we have to develop basic industries, packaging industries, infrastructure. All measures are being taken. The measures are being taken, but still we have to do much more. Then agriculture can play a very important role in poverty reduction. Now, when I talk about rural employment in India, I will speak about that. So, these are the importance of agriculture in Indian economy. Now, there are other things. What are the nature of India's agriculture, or how it is rain dependent, how it is feudal? We will look into that in our next lecture, and we will again, in tomorrow, we will see also the agrarian structure. So, if you think you can want to ask anything, you can do it.
No, sir.
There's nothing you want to ask, then it's all right. If anybody has any doubt, he can ask.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes, you.
Sir, please capital formation.
You don't know what is capital formation?
No,
Okay.
sir, I can't understand.
Okay. How much I'll ask certain questions and you will understand. Do you have a bank account?
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking you to speak the truth. How much money you have there in the bank account? You can say any numbers. Nobody is going to verify.
25,000.
Okay. Now, if you had no account, if you had not opened an account, where would you have kept that 25,000 rupees? If you had no bank account, suppose you are living in a place where there is no bank, which is near to you, so where you would have kept that money? Somewhere in your home?
Yes, sir.
So that nobody else
Yes,
in your
sir.
family member can find out where you have kept that money. Now that 25,000 money which you have kept at any place in your home is good for nothing. You are not using it, nobody else is using it, but that is your saving. You understand? That is your surplus. You have saved 25,000 rupees. Now you have opened a bank account. You have kept 25,000 rupees in your bank. Now the bank will utilize it. So the first stage is that you save money. The second stage is that you will put it in a financial institution, that is bank. That is channelization of savings. Now what the bank does with that 25,000, they are not keeping in the vault in your tijori for you. They are lending that money to anyone who needs to start an activity on a rate of interest. Now that money has gone into the circulation of the economy and it is being invested somewhere. So your saving of 25,000 has been channelized and it has turned into capital. This is known as capital formation. So in rural areas, in agriculture sector, most of the money which people have, they do not keep in bank because they don't have faith in the bank or because bank is far away from the house. So most of them are not educated. They are not able to fill the withdrawal form or a number of problems. So that money is useless. It is a sterile money. It is of no use. But if it is kept in the bank, it can be used. So government start publicizing, start opening new branches in rural areas, and people are started keeping their savings in banks, and the banks are lending it for investment and development. This chain, that is saving, then channelizing of saving, that is taking it into a financial institution, and then lending, which resorts in capital, people are investing. This is the process of capital formation. Saving, investment, and capital formation, investment.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
So capital formation refers to only money?
It can refer to other things, but capital formation, money is the liquid form. If you have got gold, now there is provision, you can invest, deposit your gold also in certain capital market. There are certain institutions. You can sell your gold and deposit your money in the banks. But if you keep the gold, suppose you have got 10 kg of gold If you keep it at your place, it is not good for the economy. It will not take the form of capital formation. Unless and until that, whatever saving you have, it goes for productive purposes, it is used for productive purposes, it does not take the form of capital formation. It is not capital formation. It must be utilized for producing something.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Huh?
As we have seen that in other countries like USA, the very less amount of people have been in the agriculture part, but they are including their valuable part in GDP, like something 20%. I'm not sure about that.
Who
And
told you that?
I think I have.
Where you read it?
I don't know, sir. I was just saying this. I don't know about the percentage, but they have the big share on the GDP there. So I have also read that it is because of their great machineries which they use. So is it possible to get this machinery in India also and to increase the production here?
Number one, the percentage of agriculture contribution to USA's economy is around 2 to 3%. The percentage of population who are dependent on agriculture for the livelihood in USA it was around 3%. Today it is around 1%.
Yes, sir.
So it is very low in comparison to other sectors. Third thing, you said that they are using machines. Yes, it can be done, but not in India. Because India's, you just try to think that if increase the 3 laws which the government has brought, the farmers allege that it will lead to corporatization of agriculture. More and more big corporate houses will come into agriculture. They will use modern techniques and machines. The result would be that around 40% of the population will be permanently unemployed because of increased use of machines. Where will they get employment? This 40%. Do you know what will happen? If there is resentment in the public in such a huge amount, if half the population there is uprising, then the country will get disintegrated. So this is not the right moment. Gradually we are shifting it. From 1951 till this date, around 30%, 40% mechanization of agriculture has taken place. There has been replacement of laborers from agriculture sector, but we still need, there are certain works which cannot be performed by machines. For example, if you have to cut your crop, you need a big harvester. So we don't have that, the farmers, it is very costly, they don't have that. So the government has to think of a plan. First, provide alternative employment in the industries and the service sector, then only totally mechanize the agriculture sector. You see, problem is that you are a BA student, and if you can read the future, then 99.9%, that 99% of the people who are sitting in your class will have very menial job in the country. They will have not good jobs. You can become a salesman in some mall, because in the next 5-10 years, mall culture will be everywhere. In every mohalla, there will be a small mall.
Yes.
So you and I will be employed by these corporate houses. The way we are moving, this is the feature of the capitalist system of development. So what you are trying to ask, agriculture production is very high in India. It is not low. What we need diversification of agriculture. What we need is that agro-processing industries on a huge scale, so that people can be employed also and we can add value to our agriculture produce. Production Too much wheat and rice is being produced in that country. Every year, millions and millions tons of rice and wheat are eaten up by mouses. It gets rotten. It is thrown away. So we need to diversify. We need oil seeds. We have shortage of oil seeds. We need pulses. We have shortage of pulses. We need other productive foods in our country. Diversification is needed. I hope.
Sir, may I ask a question?
You asked two questions. Go ahead.
Sir, if such type of question in the examination would ask like the role of agriculture in Indian economy, then matlab, how would we structurize that? Like, what would be the basic structure to start and then conclude? Just give a brief idea.
Yeah. You see, this time when you will be asked a question, you will have to answer one question in 3 pages. You cannot answer in more than 3 pages. It will be restricted. So you just write a paragraph of Indian agriculture of pre-independence. Say 5 or 6 lines, not more than that. Is after the abolition of Zamindari intermediaries, what happened. Then I told you that what is the importance of agriculture in national income, how much people are employed, industry and agriculture link, and role of agriculture in capital formation and role of agriculture in importance of agriculture in international trade. Write down in points, it hardly matters. For example, if you write down role of importance of agriculture in foreign trade, then you write down a paragraph how India is primarily an agriculture country, we can increase our agriculture exports and earn foreign exchange for our economic development. Write down 2 or 3, for example, I talked about increase in the export of fishes, in the export of wheat, agro-processing industries, achars, ketchups, milk products, all these things you can write down in 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, not much. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then we will meet tomorrow. Huh?
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sir, to see a country, whether it is and to see about that country, whether it is developed or developing, we are to see, we are not from one aspect, we are many aspects.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
I told you India is a developing country as well. There are symptoms of underdeveloped countries. If you see around you, you will find a huge amount of percentage of people living near you. They are not able to have 2 times meal per day. Their life is, they are malnourished, they are sick, they are poor, they don't have the basic amenities. How can you call a country where such kind of people still exist as developing? It is underdeveloped. And it is shame on us. Those people who have everything, they are not sharing it with other persons. So there is inequality of income in the country, huge inequality. 2% of the people in the country, 2%, they have around 70% of the wealth of the country. And 98% has only 30% of the wealth. So this is the irony and tragedy of the country. India is developing country. India is as well as underdeveloped country. And there are certain pockets which is equal to developed country also.
Okay, sir. Sir, and everything that will come in help of our production activity, that will call capital. We can call that.
Yeah. Anything we can be utilized for increasing the economic activity and producing something, adding to the national income, is known as capital. Capital is a thing which is used to produce certain things. This is the definition of capital.
Okay, sir. Thank you so
Anything.
much, sir.
Suppose you have got 1 crore rupees, but it is kept in the house, you are not using it, you have used it to buy ornaments, gold and all. This is not capital.
Raw
That-
material can be capital.
Yeah, it should be used for production. It should be used to increase the activity of the economy. In BA2, you will have a chapter on that, capital formation, role of, so the stages of capital formation, saving, channelizing of savings and capital formation, investment.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Sir,
Thank
it
you,
is
sir.
compulsory to write answers on paragraph. We can write in points wise also.
It is up to you, write in any way, but if you write in paragraphs, it gives a good impression for a teacher who knows certain things. But if you write in points, of course you can put a heading, but if you write everything in points, then that gives a bad impression if your copy is evaluated by a teacher who is a scholar. So don't worry, 99% of the teachers are not scholars. They themselves must have studied these guides which you study, so no problem. You can do anything. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Write down the things.
Sir,
The best way is to write down the heading and then write down a paragraph about it.
Okay, okay.
Sir, can we say that the effect of green revolution is beneficial for only few states like Punjab and Haryana, sir?
You ask such a subjective question which requires much time. So you study a little more. Green revolution has, initially it was beneficial for Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh. But
so what's the difference
later on it was beneficial for all other states. The thing which you are asking is the reason because Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh farmers are rich. They are rich because they are getting the minimum support price which the government declares. Rest of the country, they sell their agriculture produce at much less price than minimum support price. The government says that we are buying, they are getting minimum support price, but the truth is they are not getting. So either the farmers are liars or the government is a liar. Who is liar, we do not know. You try to find out who is a liar. But if every state in the country gets minimum support price for its produce, then within a year you will find that poverty has reduced substantially in the country. But there are certain other problems. Who will buy at minimum support price? We will not get traders to buy. The government does not have money to buy. They does not have space to store for storage. There are so many problems. So the solution is not simple. Okay, you can ask whatever you want to ask tomorrow.
Okay, sir, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.